Welcome everyone to 1 Million Mind. Excited to talk to you about some new things we've identified. How are you, Balaji? How are you doing?
Doing good, doing good. It's been a good last week of. I think I felt like I did something productive, but I don't know how much productive it is. But
You
we'll
did.
see.
You absolutely did. Yeah, it's been an interesting week in Texas. We've had our first winter really in Texas for 2 days. Of course, the entire city shut down for half an inch of
It's
ice, and the
crazy. Crazy.
entire country is laughing at us. If I tell anybody who's not from Texas, they just like really like schools were closed for 3 days. Kids had a great time, but we are thawing out now, so we're back to normal life. So
Well, it's affecting us in California too. The West Texas natural gas is so expensive now. Like my gas bill is three times for January. It's crazy. It's like, and then I was looking at why is the gas bill so high? It's like, oh, there's problems in West Texas. So I guess
there they go, coming directly to the source with a lot of people moving here now.
yeah, it's the weather conditions
All
are
right,
affecting everybody. All right, cool. Glad you're doing okay.
awesome. So yes, we are. So we have a fun show for you guys today. So we're going to talk a little bit about what's going on in the news. And Balaji has spent a lot. So where Balaji went to is a little past my technology know-how. So I'm glad he did it. So I've been working with him on just a suggestion. We want to show you what he did and just talk through use cases and what are the next things we can do. So I'm excited about deep diving into it. I haven't seen it a lot, so I'm going to see it with you guys. So it's going to be exciting. All right, so let's get started. Some of the news that I want to cover is just in general. There's a lot of conversation about because even I think CNN. So anyway, they created a chat, basically AI articles, right? And then they found they had
Right.
retract a lot of articles because it was a lot of mistakes in it. So I know we are still very early in the experimentation phase, but there are a lot of high schoolers and college kids, of course, leveraging this tool to write reports and essays. So there have been other people developing tools to see if this is a fake or real essay or there's some kind of AI. So OpenAI releases its own version of it, which basically can detect if these it's early, right? It's not 100% proof, but you can OpenAI has a tool that can review essays to see if it was human written or AI generated. So I'm just saying the person who's supplying it is also supplying the tool to test it.
Classic
So I
case
feel
of
like
create a problem and offer a solution, right? That you can sell it both ways.
actually. So I just thought I didn't think they would be the one who creates it. I just thought there's value because we talked about it in previous episodes where right now that is going to be a thing that teachers and others will need to validate, right? Even a resume I just read about it popped in my BuzzFeed news is some it was so good. The cover letters, and nobody writes cover letters, but somebody wrote a cover letter as a
Right.
strong candidate. But when you actually read to the cover letter, it basically said copy and paste. So what I'm saying is he used a prompt to create a cover letter, and he didn't really read it. He just pasted it, and then he got in trouble for that. So it's just. I'm just saying, we just barely scratching the surface of the usefulness, but also the cases where, whether the person could have done it, a review of it before you sent it, or
Right.
somebody as a teacher who wants to review if it was human written or AI written. So
Gotcha.
that's something that it's going to evolve, right?
Yes, I believe so.
So
Yeah, it's
the
going to
other
be
one
fun
is
to see how it
now
evolves.
it is going to be fun. A lot of models now, a lot of original authors are saying that when you use their prompt or their creation and you built on that and you create your whether it's an image or documents, they owe a royalty, right? Basically, at the end of the day,
Right.
it's easy to take everything, but now there's a model that extracts the training data from generative AI outputs, which what it does is now if you create something and you say it's my image, great, I can use it. But if this model can actually tell you what training data you used, maybe you used a copyrighted image to start at, then you get into trouble. So I'm just saying there is again on the same lines of what we talked about, human versus AI generated, these are
You,
going to become important
there's an
because
easy solution to this, right? The moment they figure out from the let's say the AI generated image, now you're figuring out what pieces are copyrighted. I think the easier solution is just create a system to make the royalty flow to those people, and that's it. And everybody's happy, right? Just they just need the royalty, and as a part of this, and I think probably there's a system that will get created to pass on the money, maybe in
I mean,
blockchain.
that's absolutely right. But they are the big companies which sell these photos are also getting in on the act where they are collaborating with OpenAI and, to generate these images. So to your point, I think they'll be the first ones who will have to figure out, okay, I'm using my database of images to create this. So where do I really send the royalties whenever it comes back? Or maybe they own all these images because they bought it. So they might be in a better position than artists who are like basically getting ripped off by just feeding this as a training image. But the bottom line is, again, we're very early in this evolution. We are going to get to a place where the right dollars goes to the right people rather than people feel like they're getting ripped off, right? So I think
Right. But I think it's a great thing,
so
right? I think it gives a lot of exposure to everybody in the field of art, right? I think one way or another, it's either a single piece of your image or the whole image or whatever combination thereof. Now, I think exposure is starting to happen. Then
yeah,
comes
it's
the
going to get messy.
question.
It's going to get messy to your point, right? If it's just two images being used, if it's 15 images used and only one part of the image was used, what I'm saying? Like, how do you, I guess the training model should know what percentage. It's going to get messy before it gets better because there needs to be some way of doing this. Also, I think you can use Chat GPT as a reference because whenever you use that, that has multiple. So you can use a summary as a reference. So those are things that are coming up. I think we will there'll be laws around this, and I think there'll be some. We'll come to some conclusion, but the train has left the station. We're not going to be able to stop it, but we can only hope laws and other things come into place before
Right.
people are impacted by it. But it'll happen at the speed at which laws happen. So let's see. I'm just interested to see how the thing works out.
Yeah, someone
The
I
next
think
big thing is
I read a Twitter article. This is like a iPhone moment, right? It's the Chat GPT is very similar to iPhone moment, or
agree.
I call it the beginning of the fourth industrial revolution, right?
Agree. I think there definitely, and again, that's a bit bringing us to the next topic, right? There's going to be newer versions of GPT coming out. But if you see, there's a AI war, right? Bing just announced because of their partnership with OpenAI, they're gonna use so they're gonna use the Chat GPT features within
Right,
the Teams meeting so that they could use so Microsoft announced basically premium Teams where you can do the notes and stuff from the meeting like we talked about it. That could be its own product. Now it's going to do the handling notes and tasks and all that within Teams meeting. As a program project manager that I play do my day job, that'll be amazing. Just thinking about it, this
yeah.
is one of the things I do not care for is writing notes, but being able to do that and then it'll also evolve, right? I've already seen AI tools that says these were decisions made, these are some action items, here's some discussion summaries.
We should,
So
yeah. Did they
imagine
release the Pro product already? I saw the announcement. I'm not sure whether you can purchase it and start
it's
using it.
coming this year. They have not announced. I mean, they've announced it's coming in during the earnings call. The CEO announced it, but it's not in play yet. But it's
Yeah,
coming
okay.
soon, is my understanding. And so the that side, right? So Google has been very quiet about this whole thing, but they just announced their earnings too. DeepMind, LaMDA, their model is all coming. It's going to be part of the core services, and it's going to be released soon. When I say release soon, within the next 3 months, and it's going to be an equivalent of ChatGPT, or potentially even better, right? So, who are the biggest? So, again, I think we talked through this, right? At the end of the day, these models are great, but who owns the best data or the most data is going to be the winners at the end. So, if you go down that path, Baidu, China has a lot of data. Google's next, and maybe Facebook, Meta is next, and then maybe Microsoft and others, right? So there's a hierarchy to it, right? Google owns a lot of data. So if their model is even on par with it, their data is going to make the biggest difference between, let's say, a chat GPT or GPT-4 versus whatever model Google's coming out with. And Baidu is also releasing something equivalent to chat GPT in March. So there's going to be multiple horses in this race. I just want to see which one's going to be. I mean, it won't be just, maybe there'll be just one winner, but I think there's going to be different flavors of this based on the underlying data. And I'm excited about what the next 3, 4 months bring in this. Any thoughts about it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I don't think there's one clear win. I mean, if you look at it, a lot of these models, like I mean, there's this view that in the West, people use the models to optimize revenue, right? How can I generate more revenue from data I get? And in the
Yeah.
East, I mean, to an extent, it's used to surveil people, right? How to control people, how to surveil them. I think what I'm trying to say is, I think you have a whole bunch of data, and if you train it this way, you get that result versus. So it's going to be what's the objective. So I think there are many
That's true.
objectives depending on your type of business, type of what you do. um, what this has done is opened up this possibility of every business taking their data and training it for their own optimized use case, which is really great, right? You don't have to, there's no specialized teams you have to put together, or you have to run certain things certain way, and it's all built in a box and given it to you, right? Just use the API. Let's get the let get to the next level where your data is your intellectual property, and you can start using it the way you really want it to without much of a capital cost, I would say, right? It's all now pay as you go type of thing.
Agree. Agree. And I think to your point, how this tool has opened up the opportunity for anybody, small, big, medium, doesn't matter, to use the data that the best see fit to make their product better or offer something better for their clients, right? So it's
Correct.
going to be an interesting one. The last one is chat gpt, which we use on a daily basis. You're going to should be showing your tool you built on it, but it's going to have a premium version starting at $20 a month, but it
$20,
basically
yeah.
gives you a little peak times, faster response time, priority access to new features and improvements. So all I'm saying is it couldn't have been free forever because it's using a lot of computing power. That's where
It's
the
costing them a
deal
lot.
with Microsoft.
Right.
Microsoft, the power from Microsoft computing is what OpenAI is using. So it's a great marriage for them. But what it's going to get more expensive, and I think they even were running surveys to see how much are you willing to pay for a service like that, all the way from $10 to $50 is all the prices. I think they're experimenting with $20, so it'll be interesting to see where we go. All right, the
That's
next,
interesting.
just want to
You said
quickly,
you said ten
yeah.
dollars so they must be costing them way cheaper than $10 then, if they're running a survey for 10 to 20. So
No, I think no, they just left it open. I was just telling you the answers that I'm seeing when people, saying
okay.
10. I feel like I'm pretty sure there'll be some kind of tiered system that ends up with super premium is $50 and you can get $10. You'll get better than the plebes who are doing it for free. But you know what I'm saying? There'll be
Right.
there'll be some tiers that make sense because there'll be some heavy data users which cannot survive with the $10 or $20 a month. So
Soon there will be an
so
advertisement rolling in when you type the questions, like boom.
do you want it faster? Pay $20 more.
Exactly. Soon.
It'll be funny. So I just again want to quickly just highlight a few tools. I've been looking at all kinds of tools, and almost on a daily basis something new is coming out. And then for example, there's multiple tools built on the finding the is it written by human or AI, and then OpenAI came with its own tool. So a lot of these are going to go maybe go not go out of business, but it's so new that it's rapidly evolving. The
Right.
first one I looked at was a resume does not exist, is because a lot of people have been laid off. I was wondering, I do not like writing resumes, it's just a pain in the butt. But if you had a good starting place, you get a little bit more inspired, so you don't look like you're starting from zero, right? Yes, most people have
Right.
resume, but you haven't touched it for 5 7 years. Now you have to go back. You don't even know what the new formats are. So this one just it's like almost like this person does not exist, where it just comes up with random people images, right, which are generated. Similar to
Right.
that, these are some resumes. There's even one for Elon Musk. So if you can draw some inspiration from that to do it.
Gotcha.
This one, I don't know. So I don't want to take too much time. I want to get to the product, but I'll just quickly summarize what this multion.ai does, right? It's almost like a web companion. I don't know if you have you ever used Google, I think they I don't know what that assistant. Yes, Google Assistant. You can say, "Hey, Google, book a book a restaurant for 4 people at 7 p.m.
Oh,
at this
I've
restaurant,"
never
right?
used that. Okay, interesting.
Oh,
Like a
it's
virtual
amazing.
assistant.
It basically, yeah, it just basically calls, and the restaurant owner doesn't has no clue that they're talking to an AI. It calls and say, "Hey, 4 people at seven. Do you have it? If it is, put us down," and then it sends you a confirmation, right?
Gotcha. Gotcha.
That blew my mind. Now it's like no big deal. But right now, what this does is you can say, "Hey, order." It's a little pop up, like almost like a chat, and you can just go into it and say, "Hey, order using DoorDash a burger from this place." So it'll go through. You'll put it in the thing, and you can say, it'll ask you, "Hey, I have it in the cart. Do you want to pay for it?" You say yes, and if
Right.
you have your card on file, it'll process for you. So almost like, and then you can say what is the weather? Can you go look for whatever, right? You can give it little commands, just natural language commands, and it goes does these tasks for you in whatever website. I think that is just it just blows my mind the possibilities for that, right? It's almost like everybody now has an assistant to run some of the tasks that are time
Right.
consuming. You can just use this to do.
Absolutely.
And detangle, that's more of a it's in beta right now. They have a wait list of people. So this is something I'm always excited about is summarizing video, blog, and everything because there's only so much time in the day. I consume a lot of podcasts at 1.5 speed. I just heard somebody uses at 2x. I thought 1.5 was fast, but 2x is blow my mind. But if you can summarize, there's so much content, there's so many audible books that I just bought that I never get to it. I mean, I'm slowly making it, but if somebody can summarize it for me, some of the videos I want to watch, that'd be great. So to me, I'm always excited about not all of them do a great job, so I want to see how this one does it. I just signed up for it, so I want to see how that one goes.
Yeah, that's
And the next
especially
one is
true.
just
You brought that up, right? It's especially true with long video, right? It's almost like you want to read the book cover before you dig into the book, right? Is there a way to get that
yes,
summary? Right? It's interesting thought. Okay.
yes, you're absolutely right. That's what it is, right? Like it's not saying it's not going to affect you buying or going watching the video, but the summary will help you see, do I even want to watch it? I got the gist of
Correct.
it. And a lot of
Correct.
people say this about books too, right? If you like the book, you want to read it, just go listen to a podcast that the author is promoting the book. You get 80% of the book's information in that 1 hour podcast, right? So
Right.
those
Right.
those are similar to that is what this is going to do. I'm hoping blogs and videos that you want to watch, it gives you a gist. If you want to deep dive, go do the full video. So and then the next one is just a place where it's almost like a curation of all the AI tools. So you can go and play around and see, hey, this is in drawing, painting, creating characters. All these tools are in one place. So you can, because so many new things come up every day. I thought it was an interesting find. And the last thing is, I think we've shown Level Labs, one of the previous episodes where I was able to clone my voice and then give it a
Right.
context and it read it in my voice. It was mind blowing, right? For me at least. And then what they're doing right now, they just raised 2.5 mil, but what they're doing is they're now getting into the dubbing audio process. So I didn't know anything about this. For example, you make a movie and you want to dub that into another movie because people love consuming content that language that they know. So if they're
Right.
going to dub the movie for something that is 10-minute video, it's about 2 weeks of effort and about
Wow.
$100 a minute kind of a price point. But now with this,
Insane.
what they have is 10 minutes, 10 minutes of video can be dubbed in 2 minutes using this app. So I'm just saying that there's such a no-brainer
That's going to
decision
change.
if you're going to
Yeah,
use.
that's going to change the landscape right there, right? Because every movie now has every language possible if the cost is
Absolutely.
limited.
And that's what we talked about, right? Our conversation, because I try to do it in different languages and I'm like certain technical words, I don't even know how to translate it to even my own
Right.
language that we both speak. But if you imagine being able to do this and you can translate to Tamil, Hindi, or Spanish, you do it one time and now you have like 4 videos that can be consumed by audience from across the world. It's to me, I feel like it's a great opportunity for us to leverage the technology. And the last thing I just wanted to quickly, I'm always interested in seeing where companies are. OpenAI, as we see, is like ahead of the whole pack, but Hugging Face and others
Right.
are, these are the value as of 2022. So I like to see where they are and how things change. But right now, it's a valued at 20 billion. I think that's the last round that they raised with the way Microsoft invested in them. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
so just
Yeah.
lots
We
of
should
fun
keep we
things
should keep
going
track
on.
of these. Yeah, these companies. Yeah,
Yeah,
as time goes by, see how anything happens here. Right.
yeah. As an investor side of me, right, I like to see this, and there will be opportunities to other to be able to invest in this. I want to see what makes sense because when OpenAI came with their valuation at multiple 50 billion, something like it just blew my mind. But it could be very low compared to what if it becomes a multi-trillion dollar industry. But without
Right.
seeing what Google has in store that is under wraps, without seeing what Baidu is doing, I don't know how long this valuation will last. And maybe it will. Maybe OpenAI will be the winner because they have distribution through Microsoft. So the next
Right.
couple of years will be interesting to watch how
They
this
have
all
the
plays
first
out.
mover advantage as well. We'll see. I'm sure they'll retain some of that, right? The first mover advantage was plus the distribution channel, like you said. So that's
Yeah,
powerful. We'll see what Google does.
perfect. All right. Now I'm excited to move to the next topic for us, the tool that you built for us. So Balaji, take it away. I'm excited to see it.
All right, let's see. Okay, so this is where I started with the previous episode. We kind of looked at how we can take the open AI and engineer the prompts and get a different or a very customized result in terms of how the response comes back. So this week I had a chance to play with um, fine tuning the models to, in a way, like you are submitting your own data set, have a have the thing train on it, and then get responses out of it. So um, again, I spent, just to get a sense of time, probably around 6 to 8 hours, and much of that I think at least 2 3 hours was data cleaning. I should have paid more attention. I got trapped into that. So I went to a site called Kaggle. They have a bunch of these data sets. People have downloaded one of these and started cleaning that CSV. Before I know it, um, OpenAI takes data in a JSON L or JSON lines format. Essentially, it's a file with every line is a JSON object, so to speak. That also means it has to be a UTF-8 compliant file, which means all those special characters, Unicode characters, and such should be eliminated for it to be consumable by the system. So that was, I think, time spent cleaning the data. So once I got to the file, essentially, this is where I started. I just kind of downloaded one of these files just to give you guys a sample of it. So it basically had a job title, job experience, key skills that are needed, the role category, location, functional skills or area, functional area, industry. So I didn't use all of these fields, but I picked the job title, the experience, the key skills, the role, functional area, and industry, so to speak. And then I created my own mix or prompt and a completion training data. So let's see how that looks. So essentially, that got changed or transformed into this. So this is what OpenAI uses to fine tune. It needs to have a prompt and it needs to have a completion. So what goes in here, it's entirely up to you. Though I think I learned that it's better to put a stop character, which is recognizable. I'll come to that later. Why? You can use like a slash and hash hash hash. It should not exist within the content itself. That's the key, right? You choose whatever combination of characters as a stop character, but make sure it doesn't exist in the content that you're training. So again, how did this come into place, right? So CSV got transformed.
So when you say
Uh,
stop character, just to signify the end of your whatever data you're providing it. Is that what you mean by stop character?
yeah, essentially, it needs a way to recognize the end of the.
The demand.
So for
Got it.
right, end of the data, because I think what happens, I think in this case, I found that the output sometimes kept repeating, or it created a completion of a bunch of titles together. It kind of, new line is very common, so probably it's not recommended, because even though I did not have an explicit one, at least I was happy that I had a slash n. So I kind of used it to stop it from repeating itself. But if you did not give a stop character, the output can get really messy. It looks like it.
Jumbled. Got it.
So it's all, I think, like I said, I think the first 2-3 hours is data preparation, like going through these iterations, trying to figure out why it is not working, or why that. So let's see how I came to this, right? So again, I went to ChatGPT, said, give me a sample code to convert CSV or parse CSV, and it gave me a namespace, what, or C# code. I asked for C# code. I just stuck it in the Visual Studio Code, and then started manipulating it to create um, the output I wanted, and I wrote it into a file, and that's essentially it. Again, this is nothing complicated. Like I said, go to ChatGPT, Codex model, ask for sample function, tweak it, dump it, and that's what I did. One thing I also realized is that the UTF-8 and the, I don't know, for whatever reason, I have to still figure out, it worked only with this encoding 1252 as opposed to the straight off UTF-8. With C#, I maybe just created a CR carriage return and line feed. As you can see, this has only line feed. It does not have a carriage return. It prefers file with just line feed, not with carriage return. So I got to change the format a little bit, tweak to get that working.
We have to play around with a little bit to make it work at the work
With the chat
GPT
GPT,
basically.
the OpenAI system, right? Again, they had an example, so that's how I kind of knew, because I downloaded their example, and it was in 1252 encoding, and I said, okay, I'm going to follow that. It's not working for mine, so I'm just going to use this. So all I did was just run the code, transform, and I got a file out of it, and off I went, trying to feed it into the training. So how do you train it, right? So you got to, again, follow the steps in the previous episode, get the OpenAI installed, the Python version, and other things in there. But once you have everything installed, you go to command prompt and follow the instructions from their portal, right? So you set your key in Windows. I think it's set OpenAI key equal to whatever the key is. And then we prepared the data in this format, prompt and completion. And now it's time to train it. So you can issue this command, right? And then OpenAI tool, fine tune, prepare data file, and then the local file. So when you do that, it kind of uploads your JSON-L file to OpenAI and submit it as a job, right? Just processing batch jobs, depending on how the load is on that a particular day, you might end up in a queue. I ended up in a queue, and I had 22 jobs in front of me. It reports it, right? You can keep querying. Like, for example, you can basically say OpenAI. Oh, one step I forgot. So prepare data is another tool they give you. Once you are done with your whatever the JSON-L, you can run it through their tool to see is there any further chances of optimizing. Let's see what happens here. So the first thing you notice is the file contains 976 prompt completion pairs. This is because I ran this append job twice. It's also smart enough to say there is duplicates, because I just did duplicate myself by appending the whole thing again. So, and then another interesting thing is if you have a consistent thing like summary, experience, whatever, you always start the prompt with this. It's saying, hey, you don't need this. It's there in every prompt. We don't care. Um, and then so it offers to correct all of this, right? It is nice, right? Takes some work out of your plate. If you did something silly like me, just run the same thing again and append yourself 10 times, and now you have 10 duplicate copies of the same thing. So you can say yes, and it'll format it. And let's see if you say yes, and then say the yes to everything. It's going to create a file that's going to resume training prepared.jsonl. So there you go. So it prepared and it removed all the stuff and formatted, just kept whatever is needed, 489 samples. And then you submit it. And then you wait for the job to complete. You can query while the job is being run. Um, yeah, you can use the command to list all the jobs or whatever the fine tunes that are existing in your account. And it produces a list of jobs. In this case, I already finished. So the first time I uploaded, it said pending, and it did not have a model name for it. So eventually, when it is done, it's going to have a model name. This is what we want. So we are waiting for it to create this model name,
So this is a
right?
model that you have fine-tuned with your prompts, basically, right?
Correct. With 500 or 489 prompt sets, I have trained this model with those prompt sets, and you get this as output. Another way to look at it is it's in your account. Um, Once it's completed, they report it here, right, in the usage. Fine tuning, I submitted one first time with fine tuning the ADA model. The second one I fine tuned the Curie. So basically, they have three models, right? Depending on the amount of data, and you can have cheaper to expensive. There's Curie, ADA, and then there's a Da Vinci, right? In that order. You can choose to train or fine tune either one of those to get the desired output. So in this case, I tried both ADA and the Curie with different data sets.
Yeah, it'll
So
be interesting to
eventually,
see. It'll be interesting to see. Like, I understand the reason we're fine-tuning, but it'll be interesting to show the audience the difference between they are responses. So you can go ask these questions directly to the without have fine-tuning. You'll get some answers, but the more you fine-tune, it'll be more
right,
responsive or more accurate to what you're trying to get to, right?
correct. So you basically inherit the model, and then you're further refining it to your use case, right? So they are giving you the base model, and then they're saying take this and then fine tune it to suit your case. But if anything falls outside the case, it will still respond. It may not be relevant, or maybe it's relevant, or it might give you a low probability outputs that are not relevant. So that's the whole reason we are doing this fine tuning to get it to our data set, not the general data
Got
set.
it.
So there you go. So now we got what we wanted, essentially this model name. And now we are going to take that and plug it into the model name that we used before, and then start querying. So essentially, I said, pretend you're a job recommendation expert, recommend a job title based on summary, and I pass the summary, and then it spits out the job title. So let's test it out. Um, so essentially, I'm going to take one of these prompts that I gave it in the previous. So I gave it this and trained it, and basically said the output is digital media planner, as you can see. Um, and there you go. So this is a way of verifying whether it's responding to your data set, right? So you gave it, and you can test against every one of those 500 things to make sure that it's actually responding to it. Now, that's only 500. There could be a lot of in-betweens. So we have, I think, Rajni had a bunch of samples that he wanted to pass through. So let's try that. See what happens. So you just take a resume, stick the whole content in there, see if it comes back with relevant. In this case, basically it took the first example and said it's relevant title is a front end developer.
Mhm.
It seems reasonable. The first experience is front end developer. So let's take the next one. I think I found something interesting with the second one. If only I can select it. Come on. Yeah, all we're trying to do here is make it classify. So this one, it came up with the recommendation of production assistant. I'm not sure, Rajni, but I think since you sent it, probably you might be aware of this. Again, seems not like a program or resume. It's a person,
Yes.
right? So so another thing that we can try again is what other possibilities. Again, it gives you the best probability word or job description or title.
So,
So
but I would love to show if you do the same thing on a non-trained model, what would it be? So what I mean is directly go to the,
yeah,
so what
we
would
can
that come
certainly do that.
across as?
So let's go. If you go back to chat, so this is a more general purpose. Where did I save that? Come on. Okay, there you go. So we tried one of these to show what happens here, right? So give me a few job titles for the resume summary. I think this is the, or we can
The
try.
first one? Yeah.
Yeah, we can try the first one here. Let's say,
So what Balaji doing this, basically this just shows you the power of, you could use this with the general chat GPT and get some answers, but
oh, oh no, load issues.
yeah, but that gives you an answer that is more generic based on the data that is generally available. But if you want to make it suitable for you with your own data, and then you can kind of keep refining it until you get to a point. The more data you submit, the more feedback you give this model, the cleaner and faster your results are going to be.
Okay, there you go. So essentially, it came up with media planning executive manager, event management for that. And I think it's close. It's not the
Yeah.
exact digital media planner, right? Media planning executive manager. So this is the general, I think the Da Vinci model that's responding back, so to speak.
I know some of the
Um,
other ones came back. When we tested it before we went live, we got some
yeah, so this is one of the
before.
other
Yeah,
ones we tested.
that gave us 4 or 5 options. But what, so really kind of building on this, right? So really what the use case for this is, if you put your job, your job, a job description you're interested in applying for, and then you load your resume into it, can it match it to give you an answer to say, okay, you know what, this is a great fit for you, or here are some key words of experience that you're missing that you might want to spruce up. So from an applicant perspective, that's what will happen. But if you're a recruiter on the other side, you have the job description, you're getting thousands of or hundreds of resumes coming in. Instead of having to read through it, you put it through this process. Hey, just show me the ones that have a high, let's just say
Match.
80% or more,
Yeah.
whatever your threshold
Right.
is, match, and that will shortlist you, and then you can deep dive into it. So that's some real life use cases that this can be built. So we were just starting the, scratching the that use case to see what things we can do.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you hit it right on the spot, right? Like basically, it can be used as a filter for somebody going through this process. Like just throw out everything that's not this particular type, versus, and that's what basically is this classification training is doing. But even if you want to go deeper, like you said, right, just take my resume and tell me what I'm missing to fit this job. what am I doing wrong in preparing this resume. Um, so one other thing I wanted to highlight, I think before we wrap this up, I think a couple of things. They have this tokenizer. Again, the API has a limit of 2048 tokens. So I kind of just grabbed the resume, dumped it in, see what happens. And 460, I think we still have a lot of room if it's even a multi-page resume to process it and classify. If you have enough training data, we can train it. And apart from that, I think the only other thing I wanted to bring up was this temperature. So this is basically controlling whether you want only the best match or do you want to see other not so good matches as well, right? So for example, if I say I can go from 0 to 1, so I can say 50%, just create this randomness, right? Let's restart this and then go back and query. It usually it comes up with, now it came up with digital recruiter for the same thing, because even though it's a lower probability match, now we are asking the system, say, hey, I'm not so particular, give me a few options, right? That's the example we saw here, right? It's just to compare the question here. This is basically it. It's not like all of these are high probability matches, just some of these are lower probability matches, but you're getting a array of options. A similar thing can be done with the Chat GPT, sorry, not Chat GPT, OpenAI API as well, by controlling this temperature. That's pretty much it. I think hopefully that gives a view as to how you can create or clean your data, create your data, post it as JSON-L, train it. It took me probably 1 hour before it finished it because I had 20 jobs in front of me. So I think that's one piece which we don't know. When you submit it, it tells you how many jobs are there, but I don't think it gives you an estimate when the job is going to be finished. Hopefully that'll
Sounds
be
like
a
you
good
need to upgrade to the premium version soon.
right. Once you do that, now I have a card on file. I basically, I think it charged me. It's going to charge me $1 for this. Again, I'm waiting for the bill, right? So essentially, yesterday it costed me $1 to create this. I don't know. I'm just waiting for a breakdown to see what is costing $1. I didn't query like a lot of things, just a few queries, but I'm guessing it took some of this to train to fine tune the model, right? The compute that it took. So I
Yes,
think it's a function of how much data you pass it. So
agree. And I think this is something that we talked through is right. The more proprietary data you have, the better systems you can build, basically, right? So what it's going to boil down to is, to your point, the prompt engineering is going to be its own um, knowledge stream that's going to develop. A lot of people are going to be get really good at that because you can use that for even your general ask for the models that are available out there. But once you start training it on your proprietary data and then training the model on what is right, what's wrong, and with this kind of a human in the loop, that's what I think the companies, whether you're a small company or a big company like Apple or even Google, that's where the true power of this product is going to come out, because all these generic tools are going to become a commodity. But once you train on your proprietary model, there's the healthcare systems doing that, Apple doing with all the health data, you get Samsung doing it. That's where I think it's going to get really powerful. So if you guys are, it's great that we're playing around with it, but if you can deep dive into, and once we hit like we've put 1,000, 10,000 resumes and job descriptions to that,
right.
that makes your system unique and more, powerful.
Exactly. I think that's the question we are all asking ourselves. What if you are a recruiting firm, or if you're one of those firms that work with this amount of data, right? What is your secret sauce? I mean, you are doing it by habit, or you're doing it as a company policy. But now, what this is forcing is taking all that intelligence to this training data and put it in there. So it becomes this intellectual property of a model. Another thing I forgot to mention, the model that I created is only mine. It's not shared with everybody else, unless I think there is a pathway they are working with, where within the company, or if you have multiple accounts, you can share this model between these multiple accounts. But it's not a public fine-tuned model. So at least you're guaranteed your data is yours, because that's otherwise what's the deal, right? Everybody uploads
Yes.
everything.
If you all join the mainstream, then everybody can use that data. So yes, That is
Right.
very cool. And I think one more thing you mentioned was if you have your own proprietary model, the results are faster, or fine-tuned model. The results are faster and a little bit cheaper than
Cheaper.
just hitting the general. Okay.
That's a
Okay.
valid point. Yeah,
All
we
right.
should note that too because it becomes cheaper because it's your own fine-tuned model, so they are not spending that much compute and the response is faster. So yeah, great.
That's awesome. All right, that was great. Thank you for creating that. I mean, I'm excited about all the possibilities. So we'll be back in a couple of weeks with more latest happenings around this. So until then, Balaji, do you have anything to say to wrap up?
Yeah, me too. I'm all excited working with this technology, and next thing I'm going to go find out how I can get individual probabilities of these responses. And again, as we continue to experiment, we'll bring you guys our findings. And again, the goal is not to spend too many hours, right? This again, I'm limiting my experiments to no more than a day tops because I know there's this learning curve, which is much of it. Like for example, in this one, if I knew that I had to clean the data, I would have written some code to do that. But then the deeper I draw, it's like I'm like, oh, that's just one more character, and then that's one more character, and I'm looking through. Before I know it, it's 2 hours. I'm digging through for you know what I was finding some Unicode apostrophes and double quotes and it's insane. I should have resorted to programming first, right? So things like that, right? I think data cleaning is
That's for
going to be
learning.
good.
Awesome. All right, everybody, have a wonderful weekend, and we will see you guys in 2 weeks. Thank you.
All right, awesome. Bye now.